All right. So our friends at Microsoft have fired employees for organizing a vigil for Palestinians because you know what they say about Microsoft. Very woke. It's very woke of them, as we shall see. Microsoft has fired two employees who organized an unauthorized vigil at the company's headquarters for Palestinians killed in Gaza during Israel's war with Hamas.
Tisk
The
tisk, unauthorized.
Unauthorized. They did it in the break room. They're not supposed to. The two employees told the Associated Press that they were fired by phone call late Thursday, several hours after a lunchtime event they organized at Microsoft's campus in Redmond, Washington. None of the other employees could get to the foosball. That's not in there. Both workers were members of a coalition of employees called No Azor for Apartheid that has opposed Microsoft's sale of its cloud computing technology to the Israeli government. But they contended that Thursday's event was similar to other Microsoft sanctioned employee giving campaigns for people in need. We have, quote, we have so many community members within Microsoft who have lost family, lost friends, or loved ones, said Abdo Mohammed, a researcher and data scientist. But Microsoft really failed to have the space for us where we can come together and share our grief and honor the memories of people who can no longer speak for themselves. Microsoft said Friday it has ended the employment of some individuals in accordance with internal policy. It's a little Orwell speak for you, but
Yeah.
declined to provide details. Mohammed, who is from Egypt, said he now needs a new job in the next 2 months to transfer a work visa and avoid deportation. Another fired worker, we got sound bleed there, Keaton. Another fired worker, Hossam Nassar, said the purpose of the vigil was both to honor the victims of the Palestinian genocide in Gaza and to call attention to Microsoft's complicity in the genocide because of the use of its technology by the Israeli military. Nasser said his firing was disclosed on social media by the watchdog group Stop Anti-Semitism more than an hour before he received the call from Microsoft. The group didn't immediately respond Friday to a request for comment on how it learned about the firing. The same group had months earlier called on Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella to take action against Nasser for his public stances on Israel. Nasser, an Egyptian raised 2021 graduate of Harvard University, is also a co organizer of Harvard Alumni for Palestine. Okay, so clearly Microsoft is working with this group who I don't know the group, but based on the name and what they're doing, clearly this is a group whose mission is to conflate being anti-Zionist or anti-Israel apartheid with being anti-Semitic. And Microsoft is working so closely with them that they knew this person was getting fired before they did. Google earlier this year fired more than 50 workers in the aftermath of protests over technology the company is supplying the Israeli government amid the Gaza war. The firing stemmed from internal turmoil and sit in protests at Google offices centered on Project Nimbus, a $1.2 billion contract signed in 2021 for Google and Amazon to provide the Israeli government with cloud computing and artificial intelligence services. Microsoft said in its statement Friday about the firings that it remains, quote, dedicated to maintaining a professional and respectful work environment. Due to privacy and confidentiality considerations, we cannot provide specific details except to Stop Anti-Semitism, a Zionist front group. So I decided, working on this story, to take a look at how Microsoft represents itself in regards to respecting its employees. And it's pretty much what you would expect. They have a whole site where they profile their diverse workforce. So, of course, you have that. That's kind of obligatory. This is pride. Of course, and apparently Microsoft gave $250 million to BLM before the whole national organization imploded.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of these companies did, especially a lot of these companies in like the tech space. Apple,
Right,
Microsoft. Yeah,
right, right. And this should and here so here's the coup de grace, where they're featuring one of their Muslim employees and how much they did to accommodate his beliefs and his culture. So this is Tariq Mandu that they featured. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Tarek's efforts to raise awareness among his non Muslim colleagues and managers, as well as their own efforts to educate themselves, have had real world impacts. It's because Tarek spoke up about his need for somewhere to pray, for instance, that Microsoft's new headquarters at 1 Denison Street in Sydney has dedicated prayer rooms. But Tarek wants to affect change outside of the workplace too. Quote, while there's plenty of diversity in the world, there isn't enough inclusion, he says. At Microsoft, we're in an amazing place. But beyond these walls, I want to encourage people to think about what they can do differently when they're interacting with someone in a minority group. What is that extra action you could take to make someone feel included? Well, you could let them hold a vigil for people who are being genocided from
yeah.
their community. You could do that. And here at the bottom, just before we leave this, you can see the whole thing. The girl boss thing, the pro LGBTQ thing. We're not same-sex parents. We're just parents. Two new dads on allyship at work and in the playground. And here's the girl boss thing. Making the invisible visible. How Rachel Bondi learned to bring her whole self to work. All right, so all of this bullshit is to distract you from how they're enabling a genocide. That is the purpose of this, not just at Microsoft, at all of these companies. The purpose of these warm and fuzzy profiles, the purpose of these donations to Black Lives Matter, it has nothing to do with caring about gay people or gay parents or BLM or Muslim employees. It costs them nothing to set up a prayer room, and they can virtue signal off that all day. When it comes down to what they're actually doing, they could give a fuck if you all die.
Well, that's the thing that makes kind of this story especially important to demonstrate that point, because the workers were not demanding divestment from Israel. It wasn't like a militant or hostile protest that they were staging. They weren't doing a walkout or going on strike for, Gaza. They were having a vigil. It's a very much like in the language of I recognize your experience, so let's
Yes,
bond over that.
right,
It's
right.
like you could see on this page here they would have a vigil for the victims of violence, right? Like it's
Sure,
very much
of
in
course,
that category of political action. There's nothing like hostile about it or
of course.
pointed
What
about
if it
it.
was police violence? What
Right,
if it was
exactly.
police violence? Oh, then you could hold a vigil,
Right.
right? That then not only could you hold the vigil, they'd feature it on that page.
Of course they would. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So like it was a pretty benign thing that they did, and to be terminated for that,
Right.
to be fired for that, I mean that is extreme, even
And
by
then to
like
tell
corporate
some Zionist
the
front
standards of
group,
hypocrisy. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
and then to tell some Zionist front group, okay, look, we took care of it. We're firing him before you fired him.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
Clearly,
pretty
that's what
obvious.
happened. Listen, I got good news for you. Yeah, no, we're firing him. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty obvious, pretty out in the open. Not too much not too much mystery to that timeline there. It's all in writing. And that was the AP, picked up, of course, by the Seattle Times.
Please clap.